So, I wanted to try and really maybe go over some of some of my positions this week. Some of my thought process, at least. I I think I'm gonna generally try and get better at documenting the positions throughout the entire week. Um, but I've been super busy, and a lot of my thing, I feel like I do a quick roundup analysis and then just set the trade and then leave it because with my current work schedule and my timing, it's very very difficult sometimes to catch um, to be able to document a lot of the trades, and I feel like that's, as I'm saying that, I feel like that's partially an excuse more so than a reason. um, but I'll go into that a little bit more right now. But basically, I just like with work and my other responsibilities, I'm very very time like a lot of things are very time sensitive, and I don't necessarily have a lot of time to do a lot of things. So when it comes to, trade preparation or doing certain things, I kind of have to, I don't want to say wing it, but kind of to some extent, right? Where I do some analysis, kind of get a framing of what I'm thinking, and and then just kind of go from there. But I'm gonna just stop the chitter banter and it's the agent here again. Just wanted to talk to you guys about some positions and some thought processes as to how they came up. This is basically my chart for the past week. Not much actual writing, not much actual design on it, right? But I caught a few moves within this design. I'm gonna end up deleting it all and probably drawing up some more stuff here soon. But to just kind of go through, wanted to go through some of the things that I was seeing. So if we go back, so this was like early September. Even some of the portions here, a lot of volatility here, I was able to capture on, even though I didn't necessarily want to, because it's just a noisy area. This area right here was just super noisy. It seems to me, just coming up from here, dropping 300 points, rising 300 points, dropping 300 points. It was very noisy over there. But what I ended up doing is trying to find a trend over a longer period of time, and then maybe potentially capturing moves within the trend on a smaller time frame. So in this taller, oops, in this trend here specifically, a lot of times it was holding up, as it reached this trend line, and once I saw the shift in from sellers to buyers, I would try and take that ride up back to the previous high, right? So it was just taking this, boom, 20 basis points lock, boom, taking this, boom, another 30 some basis points locked. That type of trade was what was really intriguing me, because it just kept on bouncing along this trend line, and we just had a nice, strong upward movement there. Um, then we had our inflation print, that CPI day. I missed the original move as it did happen pre-market, and I wasn't necessarily even ready. I was probably on my way to the office at that point. Yeah, 8:30. I was nowhere near like even looking at the markets technically, but I did end up catching the other sell-off, which was this. As market came to about to open, got some buyers, got some indecision, and then the continual flush. So I was able to capture a piece of this breakout here, I'm sure. Um, and that's kind of my trade on that CPI day. Didn't really see too much of that all in all. But I guess we could just continue to talk about. I'll round it off with what happened Friday. For Friday, I'd say I took two different types of trades within a single day. Right, I took a trade where I took a look at the overall market, the overall setup at a very very longer time frame, the 4 hour. Um, and I just started to notice, like I mentioned, these bounce areas, these areas where it bounces, and it respects this demand zone down here at about 30,500 or so. And we did have a lot of selling recently heading into Friday. So I wanted to see if we could maybe take a relief, and we get a little bounce, get a little relief, because it was a lot of selling over the past few days. And that was kind of the long play, looking for something to maybe get in at a good buy early in the morning and hold throughout the rest of the day. And this was essentially the setup. As market opened, we saw a lot of doji movement, indecision, a little bit of here in the demand zone, and generally what that tells me is, it's not sure what it wants to do yet, right? It's potentially at a zone where it's changing or shifting its momentum, right? And we've been in such a downtrend over this momentum, and it could be, and all in all, this could be a very short term momentum shift. It's just a matter of if the move that you're expecting to occur or the move that you are suggesting may occur will occur. Um, and and it has to come down to the calculations all in all, right? So I decided to place um, and just after market open, so about 10, I started to see some buying on the 5 minute, 1 minute down here. And I was like, okay, this may be interesting to try and catch a move back up to the highs here. Um, to the highs here, right? And and it was necessary. I wasn't necessarily sure if we could get back above these highs because of the CPI print, because of all the uncertainties we have at the moment. So I decided to place my stop a little bit closer, actually down here, to this demand zone roughly. Sorry, this zone here, because it was a little bit closer. It wasn't necessarily a stretch. I could place good size still, not risk all too much, and then be able to get to capture on this. So the 5 minute, we bid all the way down here, and then as soon as we rose right back up, I was kind of looking at it like, okay, yeah, we've kind of tested this area now 3 times in the last hour, maybe hour change. I think we could potentially start to see more upward movement rather than downward movement because we've gone here multiple times in this last hour. In this last hour, I don't see it as a high, like really set up or a high probability of it going back again down here. We've just seen it there so many times. It's bottoming out now. And then if we take a look at the volume, where did my volume go? Hello? That's crazy. I don't know where my volume went. Usually it's a little drop down thing right here. That's okay. All right. But I could tell that volume was slightly shifting towards the buying side, and I was looking to try and potentially capture this upside movement up here. And that's what I ended up doing. So I really took the trade to about here, and it just so happened that I got wicked all the way up there, and I failed before we came back down. So that was grateful, happy for that. All in all, I mean, I've if assuming right, assuming that I had enough mental fortitude and strength and conviction in this idea, I could have potentially hold it throughout this if it didn't reach this wick up here and I got filled for my exits. Um, to say that I can do that confidently, I could probably sit here and say, yeah, I would have held, but who the heck knows? I don't know. To be up probably at this point, 6 7 basis points, 60 some basis points, 50 basis points, and then to end up living in a scenario where I was up 50 and now down 12, 15, that probably would hurt my emotions personally, or just hurt me and my thought and say, maybe I should just lock in the loss and call it a quit or call it a day, because I was up 60 points. I did not capture it on the table and I left it there. And then I potentially moved on. So I was able to capture this win out the gate earlier that Friday. And then somewhere on a smaller time frame, I believe I traded some scalps as well. Where are we? I traded some scalps as well. And wasn't really paying attention to the market. I tried catching a breakout on some of the bull flags that I was thinking of forming. So I tried maybe looking at this and seeing like, yeah, we're going to catch this breakout and potentially move back up to here. We moved up to here, we moved up to about here, and then I ended up getting stopped out because we just lost momentum and pushed back down. So that was another position. That one ended up being a loss of about 15 to 17 basis points, I believe. So at this point, I'm up, let's say 60 some basis points. Then I lose 17. So now I'm down to about like 40 plus basis points for the day. And then I move on, and as the market is coming to a close, I'm starting to see more buying potential. And this right here, I really liked this flag. Um, and then I ended up stacking orders. Actually, I stacked my orders because right here I actually got in on this break. Right, slightly early. I didn't use much size, but yeah, I didn't use much size as this first entry because I was just testing the waters to see, like, all in all, how much can we potentially push out of this. So I used half my general position size for this one. So in this downtrend, it didn't burn, or in this down candle the next minute or so, it didn't burn as much. You know, if I would have went in full position and right away, that probably would have burned a little bit more than that. Still within the trend, but I was definitely concerned about it just keeping trend and going back down to the bottom. 3700s range. So that was kind of what I was thinking. But I ended up just stacking a few orders here because I did see continually buying, and shortly after, we did push through um, that range, and I got another 2017. I believe it was another no, because I had stacked 3 orders on it. So I believe I had 24 basis points times 3 because I stacked 3 orders. So it was definitely a nice move all in all. Um, so that was like so that's 50 basis points as the net for the previous position in a day, and then another another 72, I believe that is. Yep, 72. So just above 1 full percent, 100 basis points on some of the positions I took from Friday alone. Just looking at patterns, just trying to look and see what's happening. We know that macroeconomic conditions are the main driver currently, right? Post pandemic, before it was jobs, the jobs report, and just seeing how we're moving outside of jobs, as we are moving outside of this pandemic era and moving more towards this macroeconomic focus, trying to understand, how are we going to manage expectations, how we're going to manage the market coming in, now that we have all these things into question. Inflation's still very high. We don't know exactly what the Fed's doing. We're just kind of playing it by ear, day by day, just kind of working through some things. So if I were to now come here and just clean off my chart real quick, we can start very, very, very fresh. We can start fresh. It's looking all in all. Let's go to the weekly too. Let's stay here. We've definitely arched a little bit, yeah. Um, we're still down what? We're still down 15% this year. This year's been pretty rough, but I mean, what else do you expect after insane 2021? Like what do we have here? Some upwards, probably plus of 20 some percent easily. Like, yeah, September, November. Yeah, November when we started peaking. So yeah, we caught 20% last year, and right now we're down 15% ish. So we're basically net 5 over the past 2 years. But we're still definitely in a downtrend. We have more and more news coming, that's not necessarily confirming, or it's very up in the air. Right now, a lot of things are very up in the air, and that's why I've more so been trading on the shorter time frames, because things are still being defined. Things are still kind of understanding in a way that's like, we don't know what's happening next. The Fed doesn't even know what's happening next fully, right? And it's just showing that. So, but on the weekly time frame, you have a bearish engulfing candle over the past week, and that's kind of interesting because that continuation right there, and but as soon as we hit to the day, or the as soon as we head to the day, it's looking a little bit different because we have this, this daily candle from Friday that's showing a nice wick to the bottom, um, showing that it's potentially moving up, and this could be that base. And here I am again drawing the same exact line basically that I just deleted. But I mean, that just goes to show that maybe that this demand zone is that strong for sure. And if we maybe we can go back into previous time frames, previous areas, and just see what it looked like at that level. So yeah, at that price level, we bounced last time, roughly. So let me just draw this line so I can quickly grab it over here on this time. Boom. Over here, we bounced. It definitely was a demand zone back in 2021, January. Okay. And we bounced and we pushed through and we made new highs after that for sure, which is basically 20% after that. So we could see how it goes all in all, like the actual temperature in the room. You could read the temperature based off that. The daily's showing bearish engulfing, so please, be careful of that all in all, right? And then even if so, are we getting above this range here? Or maybe this is just starting to become a little triangle setup where we're gonna be in this range period after period, so and so, and just kind of taking it step by step, you know. Um, yeah, just kind of taking it step by step. But all in all, we don't have to necessarily place on a trade based on this time frame, right? We don't have to do anything based on this time frame. I can find an amazing trade within 15 minutes within that day, just looking at these few candle set, this sample size of candles, 11 bars, 2 hours and change, and just make a move off that. And that move could be 20 points, 50 points. You know what I mean? So when I talk about weekly trends or daily trends, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gonna trade this entire move up. Like I'm gonna go catch 2,000 points or so and so because this is a wick to the bottom showing great promise. We capture here, we place stops down here risking about 100 basis points, but then looking to move up and maybe capture up to this range where we have previous resistance, previous support, previous consolidation, more support here, and then a roughly resistance right here. And this very well could be the trade, right? I could potentially place a swing trade for coming up in this next week, and use that as the momentum for that. Or I can take on a smaller time frame like I was mentioning in the 30-minute and just seeing how we're going day to day or within this 30-minute time period, right? Do we push back up now that we filled this gap here that we had from the sell off from I believe this was the FedEx news that really caused this drop here in the morning, I believe. Uh, but but maybe we could continue pushing and we get up to this range here. That's about 114 basis points, 353 points or so, and that's also a great move within itself, right? So it's just a matter of what you're comfortable with, what you're feeling, is possible, what you're feeling makes sense based off of previous data, based off of the current market sentiment, based off of what these candles are showing you. So let's see what's going on Monday. We got more Johnson & Johnson, I guess. Whatever. Sorry, what's going on Monday, not Sunday. Monday. Oops. Yikes. So on the macroeconomic scale, FOMC meeting, 2-day meeting on Tuesday. Interesting. Expected on Wednesday to announce the speeding up the end of the pandemic bond purchasing. Okay, so looks like we're getting some more quantitative tightening. Is it speeding up the end of it? Okay, so less. So we're more like the end of quantitative easing. Sorry. And then a signal on interest rates to see what's going on. Since we did just get the inflation print last week, so this is kind of hot. This is some hot news. Fed listens transitioning. Boop boop boop. Moderate conversations with leaders and organizations include nonprofits, small businesses, manufacturing, supply chain management, hospitality industry. Boop boop. Okay, got it. What's happening with the hospitality industry? Okay, moderating from leaders. They're gonna sit down with leaders from those industries and kind of talk and see what's going on. But also FedEx came out and they basically warned about this global recession. Coming into a very very big downturn because of it, and a lot of people got scared. So we saw a lot of selling as well. Um, I don't know. Um, a profit warning from FedEx spooked everybody. That's what it says here. Um, and then let's see what happened. Housing market. Housing market doesn't necessarily. I feel like housing market's more like an afterthought in this case, especially when it comes to the market, because unless you're sitting here trading REITs and trading individuals, as you know, I trade mostly indexes. I just like to look at the overall picture, and that also helps me with, you know, finding the impacts within the macroeconomics. Because if I traded an individual name, like let's say Dollar Tree, right? Dollar Tree is probably up this 2.89% from Friday because of inflation, because of, the current market state where basically maybe more people are going to Dollar Tree to purchase the goods that they would generally purchase from Target, right? Or generally purchase from Walmart, but it's $1 and some change instead of it being $3 and some change, right? So, you know, these inflationary environments are essentially helping, in some cases, companies like Dollar Tree because they're driving more people to those cheaper alternatives to things, right? Going to go grab some things from Dollar Tree instead of grabbing some things from Target because the cost difference is easily 30-40% on the bill. Total, right? I can go there and go get some soap. They may not have the same soap that I want that Target has, right? Target has Everyman Jack. I don't think Dollar Tree has Everyman Jack. You know, shout out to Everyman Jack. I guess not definitely not a sponsor, but hey, if Everyman Jack wants to sponsor me for sure, reach out to the agent. I will be here. But but yeah, so we can take a look at all those factors and kind of just deduce what is really going on here, all in all. And like I mentioned, the weekly showing bearish engulfing, the daily showing a nice, uh, support pin, right? That's why I collect. I call that like a nail, right? If you think of hammering a nail into something, and this is a floor board, right? The nail's gonna go through the bottom of the floorboard to keep everything intact, and the nail's gonna protrude its head a little bit, showing you that hey, the nail's there. And then after that, it's gonna show support underneath it because now you can maybe walk on it or you can sit on that item and it'll support you, right? So these are like very simple psychological visual approaches to things that I like to attach to trading and then attach to looking at the charts. And yeah, so with that being said, like if we see what it's looking like is that Monday may be a continuation day. That's what I'm gonna call it, right? I'm gonna call Monday a continuation day, and I could be super wrong here. We'll see. I don't know. Monday would be a nice continuation day because we got a nice support here from Friday's trading. We may continue to push through. Set a 30-point stop or so, aiming to grab up here, right about there, where this right about here shows much more. Oh, that means I'm already in position. So that would mean that when futures open, that would have to see if futures drops a little bit, maybe we could get that entry down here within the gap somewhere rather than being super all the way up here. Because then that, like, yeah, that definitely messes up the ratio at that point, right? You're risking the RR becomes 2.6 in that occasion rather than it being potentially 5 or 3 or 4. You know what I mean? So like the RR just becomes a lot better at that point. Especially assuming that it could reach up to this area right here where boom, where we've seen it reach multiple times and reach some form of resistance as well as potentially even consolidation, just saying, hey, we don't want to get above this 31240 zone. Especially this is for the Dow, by the way. Also, you guys know I generally trade the indexes. I've really been messing with the Dow recently. I like the Dow right now. I feel like it affects the macroeconomic news and conditions affects the Dow a little bit more, a little bit better in my opinion, personal opinion, right here, right? I have no factual statement or no factual information behind that. No numerical, quantitative evidence that shows that. But just because it's an industrial based index, companies like Walgreens and um, I want to say Caterpillar's in Dow also, right? Caterpillar's in Dow. Sorry about that, you guys. I never remember which ones are in these. Yep, Caterpillar. Johnson and Johnson. The guys that really built this up, like without Procter and Gamble, none of you guys are shaving. You know what I mean? And without Home Depot, your front lawn looks insane. And Caterpillar is definitely the one that's housing all the machinery that's needed to build your house in the first place. And you're not getting nowhere without gas. At least not yet, Elon. Right? And don't even get me started on 3M. 3M basically makes all the materials for damn near everything. So I feel like the macroeconomic conditions definitely are more attached to the Dow Jones as opposed to the SPX and the Nasdaq, as those are more, the SPX is much broader, right? So I feel like you get less movement out of that because it's broader. It's not concentrated in a lot of things. It's concentrated in the overall market. And there's some names in there that can potentially be anomalies to these macroeconomic news that won't necessarily be affected by that as much. And then the Nasdaq is all interest rate based. It's all tech, high growth. As soon as the environment's not high growth related or high growth, favorable for high growth, it just doesn't perform well. And then as soon as it is in a high growth, favorable setting, it performs extremely well, right? And a lot of these names right now are not performing well because of that. So yeah, we can potentially get into Ethereum and other things later, but I'm not really interested in that right now. I just say right now, keep mostly cash. No, never mind. Especially when it comes to crypto right now, like I feel like I'm like dipping my toe into my accumulation phase again. Like dipping. When I say like dipping my toe, like literally just like that video when you go out to brunch or whatever and you get the champagne and then they ask you, oh, how much is the perfect amount of orange juice for a mimosa? Perfect, like that little quick doop. That's that's what I currently feel is the perfect amount for if you're looking to potentially get into purchasing some crypto to hold for a long period of time right now, because prices right now are not bad. They're definitely at a good accumulation price. If you can get back in this $1,000, maybe even grab something. If we can get back below 1,000, I'd say I'm accumulating a little bit more in that phase, that price range, rather than up here in the 13s and 14s. And then Bitcoin's basically been sitting at its bottom for a little minute now, since the summertime, since June. So I'd say I'm more accumulating in Bitcoin currently than I am in ETH, right? ETH just stepped over into its next range. I believe they merged the 2.0, and trust me, I'm nowhere near some like crypto, like know it all, know it. I quite literally know close to nothing, right? And I'll confidently leave it that way. I just know that crypto is basically the overflow of capital, right? So when things get saturated, when there's capital in all the other markets, real estate heavy, stock market heavy, you know, different businesses, being able to have capital to scale well, the leftover money, the money that they already have, the money that their owners are rolling over and after being profitable, that's where that's where crypto goes, right? Crypto goes there. Crypto goes to the leftover, and as of right now, there's not that much left over. So I'd say I'm much more interested in accumulating Bitcoin at the moment. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, so don't kill me in the comments. All right, guys. I'm definitely a fan of multiple, even Polygon. Polygon's an interesting name for me right now, especially with their integration that they've got going on with I believe Facebook and Meta and whatever the heck that is about. I'm not a fan of the metaverse, but I'm a fan of making money. So we can see what the heck's going on over there on that side of town. But all in all, that's kind of where my head's at for the week. What we got going on, all this could be thrown out the window. And as soon as Tuesday, Wednesday comes, and we get some comments from Jerome, Big Powell himself, or some other news maybe. But as of right now, that's the way the agent feels. So Sunday, September 18th. Guess I'll catch you guys in the next one. Yeah. Peace.